For the last 30 years, the world operated under a single, unspoken rule. If you want to build a smartphone, a car, or a pharmaceutical drug, you don't look at national borders. You look at efficiency. You mine raw lithium in South America, process it in China, engineer the software in California, and assemble the final product in Vietnam. This hyper-connected, friction-free system was known as hyperglobalization. It promised to make war obsolete by linking the economic survival of superpowers together. But over the last few years, that foundation has pretty much shattered. The United States and China, the two main engines of global growth, are actively attempting something that once seemed mathematically impossible, pulling their economies apart. This isn't just a simple trade war over tariffs or steel. It is a fundamental rewiring of modern civilization. We are entering the era of deglobalization, or more accurately, the fragmentation of the world economy into isolated, hostile trading blocks. And whether you are an investment banker in New York, a factory owner in Shenzhen, or a consumer experiencing inflation in Buenos Aires, you are already paying the price for this split. Because when the world's supply chains break, everything gets more expensive. To understand how deep this rivalry goes, you have to look at an object smaller than a postage stamp, the advanced semiconductor chip. Modern society runs completely on silicon. Without these chips, you cannot build smartphones, medical equipment, electric vehicle batteries, or cloud servers. More importantly, you cannot power artificial intelligence or guide precision missiles. And this is where the vulnerability lies. While the US designs the smartest chips on Earth, it doesn't actually manufacture them. Roughly 90% of the world's most advanced processors are manufactured by a single company, TSMC, located on a small island sitting directly in the geopolitical crosshairs, Taiwan. Washington realized that if Beijing ever gains control of Taiwan's chip manufacturing infrastructure, the Western economy could be brought to a standstill overnight. So, the US fired the first major shot of the new economic Cold War, the Chips and Science Act and a sweeping set of export controls. The strategy is simple but brutal. Cut off China's access to advanced chips and the machinery required to build them. The US effectively banned any company worldwide using American software or technology from selling high-end AI processors to Chinese firms. It is a deliberate economic chokehold designed to freeze China's technological progress in place. But if Washington controls the intellectual property of design, Beijing controls the physical matter of production. China spent the last 2 decades executing a brilliant, long-term resource strategy while the rest of the world was asleep. They didn't just build factories. They secured the rare earth elements and critical minerals that make the green energy transition possible. Consider the numbers. China currently refines roughly 60% of the world's lithium, 70% of its cobalt, and an astonishing 90% of all rare earth elements. If you want to build an electric vehicle battery anywhere on Earth today, your supply chain inevitably runs straight through Chinese processing hubs. Beijing knows this is its leverage. In response to US chip restrictions, China began tightening export controls on critical minerals like gallium, germanium, and graphite, materials vital for making solar panels, radar systems, and fiber optic cables. By weaponizing their material monopoly, Beijing sent a clear message to the West: if you cut us out of the future of software, we will cut you out of the physical inputs of the future. Faced with these hostile blockades, global corporations are panicking. They are abandoning the old business mantra of just-in-time logistics, where parts arrive exactly when needed to minimize warehousing costs. Instead, they are adopting a new strategy, just in case. This has birthed a massive trend known as friendshoring or nearshoring. Multinational companies are moving their manufacturing bases out of China and relocating them to nations deemed politically safe or geographically closer to Western consumers. Look at the shifts happening on the global leaderboard. Mexico has overtaken China as the top exporter of goods to the United States. Vietnam's industrial sectors are booming as electronics giants set up alternative assembly lines outside Shenzhen. India is investing billions to position itself as the new hardware factory of the democratic world. But there is actually evidence to suggest that this decoupling is largely an illusion. Many Chinese companies are simply opening factories in Vietnam or Mexico, shipping semi-finished goods there, putting a final stamp on them, and sending them to Western markets to bypass tariffs. The supply chains haven't actually gotten shorter or safer. They have just become more complicated, less transparent, and significantly more expensive to maintain. So, where does this leave the global economy? Globalization isn't dead, but the version of it we grew up with is gone. Instead of a single, unified global market, we are tracking toward a fractured system defined by 2 distinct orbits. On one side sits the Western Alliance, led by the US and Europe, focused on technological containment, financial sanctions, and domestic manufacturing hubs. On the other side sits a Eurasian bloc anchored by China and Russia, focused on resource control, physical infrastructure, and alternative payment systems designed to bypass the dominance of the US dollar. For emerging economies across Africa, Latin America, and Southeast Asia, this fragmentation presents a dangerous tightrope. These nations do not want to choose a side. They rely on Chinese capital and infrastructure investment, but they also require access to Western consumer markets and financial networks. The true cost of this economic divorce will most likely not be measured by military strength. It will be felt in the structural efficiency of the world economy. For decades, globalization drove down the cost of consumer goods, lifting hundreds of millions out of poverty and keeping global inflation low. As that system unravels, we lose the efficiency of scale. Duplicating supply chains, securing redundant resource pipelines, and building protected domestic industries is incredibly capital-intensive. Geography has reasserted its dominance over economics. The world is getting larger, borders are getting thicker, and the long era of cheap, borderless trade has officially come to an end.